A huge part of being alive is trying to figure out what it means to be alive. And at a simpler level, what is it that you do that makes you feel alive? And that's an interesting question, especially if you apply it to the context of virtual reality, which feeds off of and feeds into your feeling of being alive. So that's why today I'm going to be talking about virtual reality and how human cognition manipulates the environment of what I think is one of the coolest virtual environments ever created. And that's the environment of a video game called The Sims. Now, The Sims is a life simulation game where you create a household of people, and and you can give them personalities and things to do, and they live in a virtual world where you can interact with them, and you can manipulate everything that they do. So essentially, what you're doing with these people is you're making them do everything that you would be doing if you weren't playing a video game. So despite that weird irony, people do find themselves completely immersed in this experience. So that begs the question, what is driving that immersion? And that's what I'm really going to be focusing on with my talk today. And the first step it begins with is when you create your personal Sims avatar. And if you talk to anybody that who has played The Sims, they will tell you a certain set of patterns in the beginning phase. They'll spend a great deal of time trying to create a replica of themselves into the game, and it's based on physical features and also characteristics, which you can choose from a menu at the beginning of the game. And this was my shot at trying to create me, but of course the tools are a bit restrictive, and I'm not a graphics designer, so that's the best I could do. So we're starting to see this idea of trying to project yourself into the game. And now remember, this is a game where you could create and be in control of anybody. And this is a consistent behavior of wanting to control yourself and immersing yourself in the game. And that's the punchline. The game was designed for that to happen. And that to me is really, really cool, because you don't often see psychologists thinking like game designers, but game designers have to think like psychologists in order to come up with a game that people will want to play and be immersed in. And that's exactly what Will Wright did. He's the creator of The Sims, and he read up on several psychological ideas when he was creating the game. The first of which was Abraham Maslow, who has theories of motivation and personality which predict a sequence of actions and goal setting and accomplishments. The next set of ideas were those of E.O. Wilson, who talked about emergent complexity in the completion of those simple goals. And then David Freeman and the intrinsic idea of investment as you do problem solving. And then Christopher Alexander, and a lot of people like to build houses in the game. And his idea was that there's an intrinsic desire to play around and experiment with architecture. So of all these, I really want to talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, because I think that is the most apparent and widespread theory that really goes through the game. So many of you have seen this triangle before, so I'm going to walk through some of the accomplishments you do with your sim. You have to take care of your hunger and your need to go to the bathroom, right? Your sim will actually make a mess of himself if he doesn't do these things, and that is really embarrassing in social context. There will literally be a puddle of urine on the floor while you're on a date. And then the next thing he wants to take care of is the safety. Your sim can die, and that obviously you can't achieve future goals if you die. And then another thing which gets rewards in the game is finding belonging with peers and getting married and having a family. Another thing which you need to do after that is your character's sense of worth, the self-esteem, and finding that they have a good reputation with others. And then all of this is leading up to the final stage, and that is self-actualization. Now, the biggest reward in the game is when you achieve your lifetime wish. But I want to throw this at you. Maybe self-actualization is when you turn off the game and you start to reflect on what sort of behaviors and personality you put into your Sims avatar. So now I'm going to talk a little bit more about personality, and researchers have tried to find a connection between in-game behavior and the big five, and in the five-factor model of personality. So the first of which, to just give you a reminder, there's neuroticism. So that's the tendency to have negative feelings. Openness, the openness to emotions and experiencing new things. Agreeableness, which is valuing getting along with others. Conscientiousness, self-discipline in the context of achieving goals. And extroversion, interacting with people and the environment. Now, a study by Griebel did test participants on what he called the 30-day Sims challenge. It's not actually 30 days. It's 30 days in the game of The Sims. And he did find that there was some correlation between in-game behavior and certain factors of the Big Five. Now that's curious, because this doesn't apply equally to all the factors of the Big Five, and they're not all being demonstrated in the game. So, are we projecting personality into this game, or are we projecting an idea of personality? And that could be an interplay of a construction between reality and the virtual reality. So I hope I've established this idea, or got you thinking about the interplay between your impression of yourself and how you interact with a virtual environment. And anyway, anyway, so okay. And studying how we interact with virtual environments shines some philosophical insight into the psychological tie between interactive media and your agency in real life. And we do interact with interactive media more often than we think. The Sims was released in the year 2000, and since then, I would say that all of you in this room have become immersed in some form of virtual environment. And I ask you this question: who are you on Facebook? Because that's not supposed to come out. Who are you on Facebook? Because Facebook and The Sims would be nothing if you didn't feel that you were living through them. But what's the cognition of that feeling of living? And that's the question I want to leave with you today. Thank you.